and welcome to Kankakee Podcast, where we talk about the people and places of Kankakee County. I'm Jake LaMore, and as we're releasing this episode, we're right in the middle of Black History Month for 2024, and we're finally welcoming a guest that has been long awaited, requested by many different people, and actually has been a person on my list too since I was informed about this wonderful man that's in our community. And that is Dr. Leonard Porter, the man, the myth, the legend, in the flesh.
In the flesh.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's so great to have you here. We've had many people over the years since we've started request you as a guest. And I've heard your name brought up so many different times by people. And Eric Peterson being one of them. He was the one that gave me your contact information. So thank you, Eric, for making that happen and connecting the dots. So you are a man that has lived so many different lives, and you have so many incredible stories. I know this could easily be like a 5-hour interview, but I know we don't have that much time. But I always like to start off just by learning kind of a person's beginning, where life begins for Dr. Leonard Porter. Were you born and raised in the area?
First of all, thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me. And I hope all of the information you received were information that we can talk about and on this show, because of oftentimes I do have people make a lot of reference to me, and it's not always the positive of it. But today, I'm excited about being here. At first, it didn't really hit me until this morning. I had it on my list. I said, "This is pretty serious. Let me get ready for this." I'm not from the area. I was born and raised in Arkansas, in a little town outside of Memphis, West Memphis, Arkansas, a little country town. And I grew up there, and I moved I went to college from the little town was called Marvell, Arkansas, near the Mississippi River. And I left there and went to college in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I went there for 4 years. I got a bachelor degree in sociology and education. And while I was there, I got, while I was there, I was on a kind of like a deferment from the Army because I was in college. As soon as I graduated, Uncle Sam gave me a rifle.
Oh,
and so
that's right. You're a Vietnam veteran.
Yeah. So when I graduated, he gave me the rifle, and I was inducted in August. I graduated in May. I was inducted in August. So I went to a graduate school in Arkansas, working on a master's degree in education, thinking that would help the deferment, but it did not.
Really? So it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. Well, they needed bodies and people, and
how did that work? I always forget. So if you were in your your first 4 years of college, they wouldn't touch you, but after.
Some people they did and some they didn't, and you never kind of knew when.
Okay.
But I eventually graduated that summer, that early May.
And that was the late 60s.
That was
then?
1967.
Okay.
1967. And when I graduated, I went to graduate school for the summer, just for the summer. But August 4th, I was marching in the military. I was in basic training, and that was a 2-year experience. And when I look back on that now, it was a great 2-year experience. I didn't resist. I went, and it was just a whole new world that because I had not done much traveling and had not done many things in Arkansas except farm and go to school. And one of my dreams, even when I was out on the farm, picking cotton, chopping cotton, raising animals, I always wanted to travel. And I thought that might have been and it was.
So that's why that's kind of what brought you to go, even though there was a potential that, hey, I could get killed, but I'm going to go. And when you spent those 2 years, did you actually go to Vietnam, or were you at a different camp?
I went in August, and I went to a Louisiana to training. I'm sorry, I went to Fort Bliss, Texas, to basic training. And from basic training, I went to, they call it AIT training, advanced training. I went to Louisiana from there. And from Louisiana, I went to Oakland, California. From there, straight to Vietnam.
Okay.
So I had about 10 or 15, maybe 20 days in between all of that. But from college, I was in May. I was in graduating from college, and in June, July, and August, I went in. And so anyway, I was in the military, and we went straight to the combat zone from Oakland, California. And it was a year, about a year. I was there a little over a year. And then I returned to the state, to Fort Benning, Georgia. And all of those experiences had a major impact on me. All those when I was in the military, and that's just something that I pride myself on, is taking advantage of opportunity. And that was an opportunity, even in the war, to do some things. And one of the places I had always wanted to go, I got a chance to go to while I was in the military, in the war zone. They gave us a 2-week off to go on R&R. And I went to Japan.
Oh, cool.
I spent a week in Japan, and I had a second R&R by maneuvering, and I went to it was like China, a part of China. It was Taipei and other different places. And all of that was just fantastic for me, to do that. I still talk about some of that. Met some really great guys, in the military, and we still connect today, up to this very day. But the experience of traveling has always been fascinating to me because it's so much you can learn just traveling and looking. I've been to a lot of places. I've been to Africa. I've been to Jerusalem 3 times, and I've been to the Netherlands, a lot of places.
Wow!
And I had plans to go to Egypt. That's Egypt and Paris, my other 2 places. Have not made it yet.
There are so many things I know we could unpack with. I mean, just even your experience in Vietnam and things like that. And like I said, I know we only have so much time. But that really made a mark on you. You were able to do some traveling. It sounds like your Vietnam experience, sounds like you got lucky compared to others. Fortunate, yes. You were very fortunate and had a good experience in Vietnam. So how did you end up coming to the Kankakee area then? I mean, so post service, that's when I assume you get married and you start having kids. What led to?
Well, before I went into the military, I moved from Arkansas to Illinois, and I had a bachelor degree in sociology, and I worked in mental health for the Department of Mental Health. I worked at Chicago State Hospital in Des Plaines, and I lived in Chicago at the time. And I worked there about from like till August, and then I went from the time I got out of college until August, and then I went into the military in August, and I stayed in the military 4 years. 2 years. I'm sorry, 2 years, and then when I rotated from the military, when I rotated from Vietnam, I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, not Atlanta. Columbus, Georgia, near Atlanta, and I was still in the military, and that's when I got married to, and then I moved to my wife moved. We got married while I was still in the military, and she didn't adjust to that too well. So she moved to Chicago with my brother until I got out. I had like 3 or 4 months left. And then when I got out of the military, I moved to Chicago, and then we got together, got an apartment. And both of our kids were born in Chicago, but I was working for the Department of Mental Health. And actually, I was working there before I went in the military.
Right.
And then when I came back, I went back to my job.
Okay.
And everything had changed, including me. So,
sure. Yeah.
So that didn't last too well. So I went to school. I went out to Governor State University and got my master's degree in counseling. When Governor State was just being put together, it was a really experience. 1974, and that's when it started, somewhere in that time, And so classes was yucky. Didn't have no wall.
I was going to say it was a very small.
It was a
place.
It was an airplane hangar. That they made the college in.
That's right. I often forget about that.
And it was also muddy trying to get there. In the wintertime, you got stuck. But it was kind of it was kind of fun in a sense because it didn't bother me.
Yeah,
I could manage all those tragedies things that happened. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I graduated, and then I went and got my PhD in psychology, and I moved from Chicago to the community that I live in now. Actually, it was 43 years ago. I moved to St. Anne, Illinois.
And what brought you to St. Anne? Was it a job opportunity down here, or did you meet
What brought
someone?
me to St. Anne? Good question.
Yeah.
First of all, I met a guy who had just gotten out of Vietnam, and his family were living they were from St. Anne, and they had moved. It was their house I bought and moved in. They moved out. I moved in. And I got a really good deal. And I saw the house. It was vacant. They had just moved out. And 60 days later, we were living in it.
Okay.
But I wanted to get out of the city. My house had been robbed twice.
Oof.
And my wife was in the backyard with my youngest son in her bosom. And a young man jumped the fence and tried to rob her. She didn't. She didn't have nothing but a baby on her.
Yeah.
And she started, and so he left. And I said, that's it. We got to go. So we moved from the south side of Chicago to St. Anne, Illinois. And if I had it to do it all over, I would do it all over. I love St. Anne. I love Hopkins Park. I love Kankakee County. And because it reminds me of Arkansas.
Yeah, I was going to say, it brings you back to your rural roots.
Yes. So I'm a gardener. I raise all kind of garden, vegetable, even till this day. I'm a master gardener, and I gave that title to myself. and people come. I raise all kind of stuff that I don't even eat, but I give it away.
Yeah.
Even till today. Last year was a master. And this year, I'm looking forward. I already started my garden planting. But when I came here, I was still working in Chicago. I worked at Chicago State for like maybe 5 or 6 years after I moved. And then I took a job in mental health, family counseling in Chicago. It was called Midwest Family Resources. I met this gentleman. We started this program. He had just started it, and I became his executive director. I ran that for a while, and then we moved. Actually, that helped me to come to Kankakee County because we opened up 2 offices in Kankakee, one in Joliet, and one in actually 3. One in Kankakee, in the Bernard building here, and we opened up one in Pembroke, Hopkins Park.
Okay.
And I was directing those. So that's how I got to see the area.
Gotcha.
That's what actually brought me to the area. We had a contract with the Department of Children and Family Services, Service and Family. And so that brought me to the area. And then I started teaching at Kankakee Community College.
At the same time?
Yeah. So I retired from teaching there. And I also worked at Good Shepherd Manor Developmental Center out in Momence, Illinois. I worked there for 19 and a half years. part-time. So I retired from there. And I was also working at the VA part-time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Man, when did you sleep?
I slept on the job. The experience at the VA was really the Cadillac of my transition, really, because I was new. I did that before I did the college and all the other stuff. When I came home from the war and working with the mental health, Chicago State, I left there to do the mental health. Not the mental health, to do the VA. I opened up a center called the Vet Center, VET Center. You may have heard of them. They're all over the nation. And Chicago has 4. And I opened up the 4th one in Chicago Heights. And it became, and I can brag about it, it became the Cadillac of the vet centers in the nation. And I had people from all over the country, including Australia, to come to visit our center to see how we were making it run.
Wow.
I had a master teacher when I worked for the department, when I worked for, it was called Midwest Family Resources, and they were contracted with DCFS. And that's where I got the experience, and we worked primarily with abused children and stuff.
Right.
But when I left there to go work for the VA, I had that experience and that knowledge, so I opened up this veteran center. Actually, they sought me out. They asked me would I come and work for them, because I had made a kind of a personal vow to be done with anything with the military, VA, or anything. I didn't want to have.
Why was that?
Bitter. Bitter, saw so much injustice and so much
against the
racism in the VA. Not the VA, the military.
Right, and especially against Vietnam vets, right? Because a lot of that was going on at the time.
Yes, and so the black veteran had even a double dose.
Sure.
You serve your time, you can't get no help because so much red tape, and veterans have such a short fuse. They go down 6-7 times trying to get it. They tell the hell with it, but they need it.
Yes.
So I got involved in that, and so I opened up the center, and we were really super rolling, and I got charged by the VA. It was called. They call it can't think of it right now. But anyway, some allegation that I wasn't getting the job done. I was doing some other stuff other than my job. Just some allegation, and so they came in and investigated me, and so they removed me from the Veteran Center to Chicago to West Side VA Hospital. While they investigated my 6 weeks of investigation of the allegation that I was charged with, and at the end of that, they brought me in to discuss what they found, and all 6 findings was no finding, no finding, no finding, no finding, no finding, and they said you can go back to your job now.
And you said no, thank you.
I said no, thank you.
Yeah,
and I left. And I left, and I opened up a recovery home for men in Kankakee County that lasted 30 years.
What was that called?
It was a recovery home for veterans.
Okay.
My issue was, one of the charges was I was serving veteran that was not eligible.
Ah.
And it was halfway true, but it really wasn't true. I couldn't serve him. If you got a bad paper, dishonorable discharge, I can interview you and assess you, but I can't give you no service. But I would send them somewhere else, I had all kind of resources.
Yeah, you can be like, look.
I wasn't supposed to do that.
Yeah, you can kind of tell them what they need, but you can't give them that.
And so I got in trouble for that, And I don't mind because they needed the service just as bad as the one that had.
Right. Yeah.
Especially with a group, I was dealing with a group of black veterans out of the southern part of Chicago called Argyle Garden. You may have heard of it. It was a public housing. And I opened up a unit out in the garden. I would go there every Thursday, I think, or Wednesday or Thursday, for a couple of hours just to interview veterans. And they started just pouring in and overwhelmed me with coming. And 90% of them had bad papers because they couldn't go to the VA, and they heard that this guy over here helping us, and here they come.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what got me in trouble.
Okay.
And the trouble I got into turned out to be okay because when I opened up my home, I could take them in and help those guys with the counseling that they needed. That went on for 28 years. And then I finally had to give it up, because I wanted to do some other things, but it just burned out. And I think I might have served over 4,000 guys.
Wow.
And men, and about 400 women, and some babies and some children during that time. And that house was here in Kankakee County until the city, one of the houses, I had 7 houses.
You had 7 houses in Kankakee?
No, total. I had 3 in Kankakee at one time.
And what did you call them when that was open in Kankakee?
It was called, we called it a recovery home, but the house was not, each house had a name. Concerned Citizen Against, I can't say it. Concerned Citizen Against Addiction. Something like that.
Okay.
But we left that out. We were just a recovery home. I got sued by the city, and the chief of police was helping me with the guys because he would get these guys coming in that they couldn't do nothing when they sent them to me. They were veterans, and it was some magic in it, And
why did the city sue you?
Well, I don't want to call names, but there was some aldermen that said we were bringing trashy people to their community. Over on 5th Avenue, over on 4th Avenue, across the river, and right here on Maple Street. And I had a house that was donated, and the guys, we never had any problem with the guys and the community. It was always somebody in the community that was in denial that drugs was a problem. The churches was funding me. They were giving me all kind of money. Not all kind, enough money to operate. And even some of the church members would report stuff on us that was not true. That we was exploiting the money. A lady came to me one time. She said, "I'm a member of this church, and I know we give you money every month, but I think," she just went on and on and on. I said, I got 14 guys. I got 8 guys in this one house, men. I said, "Do you have any children?" I have 2 sons. I said, "You ever try to feed them?" I said, 7 guys eat a lot of food. And that little $400 that the church give me, and I didn't make it light of it because we needed it.
Right.
I said, it doesn't even last a week. And for us to be using it for something else would be awful, difficult. But I made friends with the food pantries and all kind of, so we managed. It was, but the thing that made that work so well is that every guy came in the program was brainwashed that I need to give this up, but I got to help the other guys that come in. So everybody was helping each other, and that was my strategy. You got to help each other. That's the philosophy of recovery. One helping the other one. And that works very well because the guys would really look out for each other better than they sometimes themselves.
Well, and that's kind of what you do in the military, right?
Yes.
So
that was 100% military, and many of them were veterans.
Right.
So it wasn't hard for them, leave nobody behind. Somebody in need, split what you got down the middle and give them that, and then take the other half and share it with somebody else. They did that, and they did it well. Till this day, that I closed the houses down. The last one was closed in 2009, and that was about 14 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Till this day, I still have fellowship with 90% of those guys.
That's great.
And they still helping people, and we have
wonderful.
them doing a lot of things in the city. We've had them sit on the council. Mm-hmm. We've had them working in the church. We got deacons. We got preachers. We got realtors. We got all out of those same guys who came with nothing and didn't have a plan, and now they're raising families and doing well in the community. And so the quality was there. They just got off on a bad start, and it's hard to get off the treadmill at that point. So anyway, that went well. I had to give it up for a lot of reasons. Family, primarily family. But the other one, I wanted to do some other things. And that's when I closed that down, that's when I got into opening up my Black History Program.
Yes, and
that's why we're here.
Yeah, and that's there. Like I said, there's so many things, so many lives that you have lived, so many people you've helped, and thank you for all that hard work, by the way, for doing that for the community. It's because that is not easy by any means to do any of that work. So
and to manage your own family and to manage your own community obligation.
Yeah,
it's all about management and commitment. The new home that just opened it up, and a brand new one is about to open up now.
Yeah, on Washington, right? Isn't there one on Washington they're working on right now?
Yes, and the one out here on going out of town here at the old
Homestead.
Yeah,
Jimmy Smith's place.
Smith, yes.
Yeah.
I helped him work with that, and I still work with him real tightly.
Good.
Because I had a privilege that he doesn't have, and the new ones that come didn't have. We didn't have no rules back then.
Yeah, there's a lot more rules. There's a lot more rules now.
Red tape for days.
Yeah,
and quietly kept. They needed for your protection, our protection, the guys' protection, and the community protection.
Right.
Back then, we didn't have to. The law says if you had 6 guys living together in a house with different last names, that was okay. If you went over 6, had to call it a group home, or if you went over that, you had to call it a recovery home, something. Anyway, I kept it on the 6, and if because they all had different last names, they were not really related. So I kept it on the 6, and if I ever went over, somebody was leaving, so we managed that well. And then it also said the only license here I had was we incorporated our program, and I had license to do mental health work. So that's really all we had, and the city gave us we get a city permit to have the building, but then the city, the alderman messed that up kind of because they were saying that we would all kinds of allegations that was not true, was never found, no finding. Went to court, went to the council meeting. I spent hours in the council meeting. A couple of the elected official was trying to explain to the community that what we were doing was up above board and sustained and good, but they said we had to go. So we moved out of Kankakee to Hopkins Park and got a farm out there, which was so ideal.
I was going to say, that's right up your alley once again.
Ideal. We had horses, we had dogs, we had chicken, we had a garden, big garden, and I got a chance to teach some of the guys how to garden.
Yeah.
And not only teach, they taught me a lot.
Sure.
I had a white brother from Georgia. He was in prison, and when he got out, he had heard about us in prison. And when he got out of prison, his priest that he had made friends with in the prison in Southern Illinois brought him all the way up here with his bags and clothes and everything, and left him.
Wow.
Left him with me.
Uh-huh.
And he was just, he had been in prison like about 16 or 17 years.
Oh, that's a long time.
Long time. And he had a life sentence, but they let him out because he has such good behavior. And he had a baggage and stuff,
Sure. So
he came, and he loved gardening. So he showed me how to do some stuff I had never seen done before, and it worked. So I incorporated that. So we had a bigger garden that year. And then his family from Georgia came up. The whole family drove up to see him because they had not seen him in years because, they were in southern Georgia and he was, or whatever. So that was a great experience, And then he finally finished the program and moved back to Georgia when he finished his time, his aftercare or whatever. But let me back up, all the way back up. When I was a young lad, my daddy used to tell us stories about slavery. His grandmother was a slave, and he used to tell us a story about slavery. Now, I was about 9 as I remember, and as much as I believed and loved my father, I never allowed that to sink in as the truth. How could that be? He told us a story about his grandmother. His grandmother had 8 or 9 kids, and then she had some other people living with her who were not their kids, but they took in everybody. And she worked in the field, sun up to sundown, and she cooked a meal for 3 meals a day and fed all those guys, all her kids. And she also had a quota in the field from the slave master. You got to bring in this much every day. Everybody had a quota. And if you come under your quota, you got served by the master's overseer, who was a slave, a black man. And so one day she was just wore out, burned down. And instead of her getting 100 pounds of cotton, she got 75. And she came home, she was cooking dinner, feeding the family, getting ready for the next day. And the slave master came with his overseer, who was a slave, also a trustee, and he called out. He said, and said, "You didn't meet your quota today." She said, "Yeah, sir, I know, sir." I said, "I'm just tired." He said, "That's no excuse." He made her take her blouse off, and they whipped her till she bled. And then when she was bleeding, while all the kids watched and all the other people watched, and when she was whipped up, he took some salt and put on her body so she would heal through the night, so she'd be ready to go to work the next day. Now, I didn't believe that. I don't say I wouldn't believe, but it overwhelmed me.
Well, and as a young kid,
9 years old.
You're just like,
So that stuck with me all the way through, and I started researching it in my own head and heart then. And I have done such extensive research on slavery until that was a minor story compared to some that I found.
Oh yeah,
over the
absolutely.
Years. Some that I found, that. So that was my beginning of. And he used to tell us about not just the bad stuff, but the good things that they would do. And so I've always had an interest in that. And another event in my life that changed my direction. Well, it gave me a stronger desire. Was when Emmett Till was murdered down in Mississippi. We didn't live far from there. Emmett Till and I are the same age. I'm a little he's a little older than I am.
Okay.
A little older. And but he wasn't the first one that happened to. But that's the one that made the news.
That's the one that made the impact.
Yeah, but we was all in the house, my 2 brothers and my sisters and everybody that was there. My daddy came in that evening and said, "Well, I just heard they done killed another colored kid down there in Mississippi." And he said, "What you mean?" He said, "Yeah, he I don't know what he was doing, but they killed him and they found him, and he knew the story." Everybody in Mississippi and Arkansas knew the story, but nobody talked about it because you were told if you did, so you kept them out. So they talked among themselves. And that impacted me till this day. Now, what I have done with that, when I moved, when I was in college, that was a part of something I worked on. When I moved to Chicago, I got a chance to meet Emmett Till's first cousin who was in the bed with him when he was drugged from the bed and killed. And we became good friends. He lived in Oak Park. He's passed away now. His name Simeon Wright. And he told me the whole story from out of his gut. He wrote a book. He said the book only tell you certain things. The editor of the book only let him put so much stuff in it. But he told me the real story. And so for the last 14 years, every year on August the 28th, I have a ceremony at Emmett Till gravesite in Chicago at the Burr Oak Cemetery in Chicago. And I think it's like an Alsep somewhere in that area. It's in Burr Oak. And so I've been doing that for, this is our 14th year coming up in August. And I've met lots of his family over the years. I visited down Mississippi. I've been in those places. And the person who works with me, he did a tour of the house. I've written a little book about it, But so what Mr. Wright told me, kind of, I guess it's like the information he told me registered with me. But what he told me on the end before he died, he told me he had a terminal illness and he don't know how long. He lived a couple of years after that. And I'm friendly with his wife now. She meets us every year out there. He said, I want you to tell this story, and I want you to tell it what really happened. Because Hollywood got a hold to it and made a big deal out of it and made money off it, but they didn't tell the truth. So when he told me that, I said, yeah. But when he died, that's when it registered that now I'm left with the ball. So I'm telling the story now. In my gallery, I got lots of stuff on Emmett Till.
Yes, I noticed that when I was there the other day.
But the point is that impacted me as much as my grandmother, my great grandmother's story and other stories. And so that was my beginning of studying history. And so it has emerged. When I went to Africa, I went to Africa on a hunt, and I found more than what I was looking for. When I was there, I talked about it so much. I guess it inspired my son to go.
Yeah.
And my other son said he didn't want to. He'd been other places, but he hasn't been to Africa. So.
Yeah.
But the idea is that what I know, what I've experienced, is just a drop in the bucket to what's to be revealed.
Right.
And
so sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You ask.
No, I was just going to say it sounds like. I mean, the work you were doing for those who had mental health issues, that was something you were very passionate about, obviously, too, because otherwise you wouldn't have done all that extensive work. But it sounds like your another passion that you kind of did on the side or on your days off was history, and obviously in particular Black history. So then once you retired, you're like, now I can spend my time doing this.
Absolutely.
And that's when the History Center
2009, when I closed the halfway house, I opened up a little gallery here in town, and one in Pembroke and one in the Sun River Terrace. And it has emerged to this. It's not even close to what I envisioned would like to have. I do worry about my being able to continue this. I'm going 100 miles an hour now, but I have to slow down at some point.
Yeah.
The light gonna change.
Yeah. Well,
and so we got to get this. I wanted to make it a permanent fixture in the county. That's my goal. Because as much as I like to be here forever, but I know I'm not. And then when I'm gone, I like for it to continue. And I have some things that I put in writing already. Let's say if we move the museum from where it is now to in this room, no one should ever have to pay to come see it. That should be free to anybody. And my mission is to educate all American citizens about the history of Black folk. That's my goal.
And the name is it pronounced?
Akubalan History Center.
Akubalan. Okay, I know a lot of people get it wrong, including myself, so I wasn't sure because someone was quizzing that on me today about it, and I'm like, I'm not 100% sure how it's pronounced, but Dr. Porter is going to tell me.
Akubalan.
Okay.
Now, I've heard it pronounced other ways, even just recently. Someone sent me something from that they had found in the scripture. It's in the Bible. The name is in the Bible. If you read in Genesis, it talks about the Akubalan people. And on my thing here, I have the mother of mankind. I have the Akubalan. The first name for African people
was Akubalan.
Akubalan. It was not Africa. Africa came many years later, and it was given to the people of the region by a white man named Afro-Kino. He dropped some of the letters off his last name and named the country Africa. That's how it got its name. And he broke it up in all kind of little divisions, started all kind of wars among themselves. That was back in maybe 1600.
See, I did not realize that.
And from that point on, it's called Africa, but it's the original name Akubalan. So I named the gallery Akubalan, the original name for man for mankind, the country, Africa, Akubalan. If you read the book of Genesis, you'll find where, and they will consider Ethiopian people that was in the Bible. And it has a lot of history that kind of give you overwhelming information that you might not even want to believe unless you believe the Bible.
Yeah.
But it's been all left out and misunderstood. So that's why I do. And I also, I like to startle people and I like to shock people. So that's why if I say a Black History Museum, yeah, it's one over here, it's one over here. But
well, I didn't even know we had one until the last, a few years, I think, is when I learned about the Akubalan History Center here in Kankakee. I had no idea it existed.
It existed.
And I think there's a lot of people that don't know about it either. So, it's right at the corner of Station and 4th.
Yeah.
In Kankakee.
288 South 4th Avenue. We're not an official museum on the market. We just a gallery with the information that's free to the public. I don't get any funding for it. People, 99% of the people come like what they see. They learn a lot. They get overwhelmed. And then many I don't hear from ever again because they don't want to go through that experience again. I've had some African American people come in and say they don't want their kids to see this, and I say why? I said because I don't want them to know this. I said, but that's history. The one room I don't think you saw.
No, I didn't get a chance to see. I still got to come back. And see it.
The one room is my stereotype room, and it's a little overwhelming.
Would you want to elaborate on what is included in the stereotype room?
Stereotype room has memorabilia, some original memorabilia from the early days of Black history, early days when white America saw Black folks as buffoon and this. That's the Sambo era, and I had been collecting that for years, and people like there's a lot of misunderstanding. The art was designed to poke fun at Black folks, and now it's a valuable. If you buy it today, it costs you an arm and a leg. Back then, it was just a joke. Like I have some original boxes of the Gold Dust Twin soap. It was two little Black kids on a bar of soap that was really, really not attractive.
Yeah,
but they were good for cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
So I have that collection there. A friend of mine, Dan Harris, and I went up to northern Michigan to a museum up there I had heard about, and we went to check it out, and we got overwhelmed with everything: grief, anger, love, whatever. The whole museum is about stereotype, and it's big as this building here, and it was just overwhelming. They had Angel Mommy and all that. All that stuff.
I often think of some of the old movies I've watched from the 1930s where they've got the I forget the particular name for these music artists that would dress up in blackface. But there's a particular name for that type of artist, and I can't think of the name of it.
I'm going to say his name when it come back to me. It came up. But he was a singer and a dancer, and I have some of his original. And he got very rich off of blackface.
Yeah.
The white hand, the white lips, and very rich. He was an excellent singer and a great dancer.
Yeah.
And but they did that those shows.
Right. I can't think of what they called those either. There's a particular name for those shows too, and I can't think of them at the top of my head. But
it'll come to me. And that was a period that today when you look back on it, I didn't get no humor out of it when I see it. When I watch the movie, I don't see what's so funny about it. But that was the sideshow. Minstrel shows.
Minstrel, maybe that's the name I was trying to think of. Yeah,
and the dancer with With this whole museum, I can't say the name of it right now, but it's all white community with I would say about 80% of the students are white and Asian, maybe 1% black, and it's a pharmacology museum. School, university. Huge, 50,000 students or more.
Oh, wow.
And they have
huge.
a Black History Museum about stereotype. And that museum is so overwhelming. Anything you could probably think of, never heard or seen is there.
Yeah.
I do have some of the same pieces they have too, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
You have a lot of interesting pieces.
I do have that, yeah.
Yeah, at the museum.
That museum gave me a real lift on, and I asked a lot of questions. I wanted to know, why would you have this up here? What is the purpose? We wanted our students to see this museum. I said, how often do they come? He said they don't come. Every now and then, new freshman classes have to come, maybe, because of a history class, but they don't come. And it's really, really an expensive operation, but they don't come. And I haven't quite figured out today exactly why the need to have it. It's a great institution. It's a reality, but what was the purpose? Even till today, you got this museum that's loaded to the brim, and nobody comes, except groups come. Like myself, bring a group, but
sure,
it's not something you just want to walk in. You don't want to see it twice anyway.
Right. Yeah.
You go there the first time, you don't want to go back.
Mm-hmm.
What they have Barack Obama. That's how latest is. They have him with that little elephant with the big ears. Got him flying around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And then Angel Mine, Uncle Ramus, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I have a room and I have it closed off. I don't leave it open, and I also have a hangman noose in the room, and the story behind it, and I have some Confederate flags and stuff in it.
Yes,
it's sealed off, and when I say sealed off, I only show it as people have finished with the other and prepared for it, because
it's extra sensitive.
Because I've had people break down and cry. I have people want to come in and tear it down.
Sure, right. Yeah, you've got both spectrums there. Yeah.
And I understand. Yeah. Matter of fact, I have a card on one of my advertisements that says, this image, some of the images here are graphic, but get a grip. It is history.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've been operating this is our 14th year official, but I was doing it way since the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when 2009, when I retired from the other, that's when I opened it up. And so we've done a lot of stuff. We've traveled. We've had all kind of traveling exhibits, all different places. And I was inspired by Dr. Margaret T. Burrow from the DuSable Museum. When I first moved to Chicago, I went and visited her, and we became friends. She's the founder of the DuSable Museum. And then when my kids were born or grew up, preteen, I took them. And I told her that I'm working on a museum. She said, open up a museum now. She said, don't wait, don't work on it. And she donated me all kinds of items that I still have some today.
A lot of masks, right, that she donated? Is that the same
lot
person?
Of graphic, a lot of pictures of, she gave me over 50, 60 different images that she had painted herself.
Oh. Okay.
If she ever come back, I'll show you. I still have many of them. I have a whole wall dedicated to her.
Okay.
And she passed away. She cut the ribbon when I opened.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. That is the same person I'm thinking of that you were telling me about.
She cut the ribbon over at the other building, and then she gave me this. She said she was coming back the next year. She never made it back. She passed away that following year. But it's something that feedback for me helps me to keep going lots of time. When people say, I've never seen this, I'm glad I came, I did learn something. I want my kids to see it. I want information that you did not know. Our latest bombshell was Bass Reef. Bass Reef, we did an opening last Saturday on Bass Reef. And then we had a sellout crowd, place was packed. And I had this amateur actor who is now a real actor because he did an imitation of Bass Reef. Bass Reef was a U.S. Marshal, first black U.S. Marshal. I'm going on 80 pretty soon, and I had never heard of him until about maybe 4 years ago. And 20 years ago, his name was not even mentioned. And today, he is celebrated as one of the greatest U.S. Marshal in American history. Even Illinois, I can't say the name of but their law office in Joliet putting up a statue of him.
Oh, wow.
In a Bass Reef. I have pictures of it already.
Yeah.
And he got statue in Oklahoma, Kansas, and Arkansas. He was born in Arkansas. But he was the first black U.S. Marshal appointed by a judge named Judge Parker, and he arrested 3,000 bandits.
Oh my gosh, that's a lot.
He brought them in,
man,
and
that's a record.
Yes, and that was before that was in 1801, in the 1800s.
Wow, that's interesting. I wonder how that would have worked. You know what I mean? Like he went out and brought them in alive. Yeah.
And he had a wagon. He had 2 or 3 in a wagon. He had to protect the wagon, drive the wagon, and keep the bandits alive. He was wounded several times. If anybody Google him up, they would be overwhelmed with what he did.
Right.
And they kept it so quiet.
And you've got an exhibit right now that showcase is it just him or just kind of like
black cowboy?
Yeah.
But I'm showcasing him because I have in my possession his badge, his star, his original badge that he wore. I actually have his badge.
You do?
I do have.
Oh my gosh!
I do have his badge, and this person who did the imitation wore it and dressed up like him, and did it, and he just. It's been all over YouTube. You know?
That's so cool.
Yeah, I'll have to send you some.
Yeah, please do.
But the having the badge is really kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
For most people, like you and many others, don't believe it's the real deal.
Mm-hmm.
But it is. And then question number 2, people ask, "Where'd you get it from?"
How in the world did you get something like that?
Well, it was done through my son, who was inspired by what we were doing from a baby up. He works for the Justice Department, and he was in Washington at one of the museum display of U.S. Marshal Museum. There was hundreds of U.S. Marshals, and the U.S. Marshal in the museum they had a store where they were selling some of the memorabilia that the Marshal had and wore, the caps, the gloves, the shoes, the boot, and he saw the badge and he bought it and sent it to me. Actually, he called me and said, "Dad, would you like this?" I said, "What is it?" He said, "I think it's original Bass Reef badge." I said, "Hold it, I'll come get it."
You're like, "I'll be right there."
I'll be right there in Washington D.C. So he sent
Never seen him move so fast.
Yeah. So I have it, and I have people. The display we did Sunday, we're gonna do it again this Sunday. We have people to hold it and to examine it. You know, it's heavy. Yeah. Examine it. You know, put your hand on it. I say, rub it. You know, and you know, people first they don't believe it. And when I tell the story, then they believe that. And then, but to have that badge is really kind of a unique specialty.
Yeah.
And
among all the other things.
Yeah. Well, I have a lot of other original. I have Harriet Beecher Stowe, who was the author of the bestseller for many years, Uncle Tom's Cabin. I have original books, first printing, and I got that from Africa.
Wow!
I found it in Africa, first printing, and then I have other copies that you know, but I have the original printing of Harriet Beecher Stowe. It's really in good shape, and I also have I have a lot of originals I have slave blankets, but I have I'm trying to think the boxer Muhammad Ali. I have his hymn book that he signed and wrote in.
That's so cool.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. It's a Muslim. It's a Quran type, But a gentleman had it and asked. He said he got it from a guy who got it from him, and he had passed it on. And when he was dying, and he gave it to somebody. Anyway, I had the signature checked out. It is his signature, and his signature alone is worth.
I'm sure it's worth some money. Yeah.
And the book, it's his signature.
Right.
You can. It's easy to check that. With others, you can pull up his signature. So I have that on display, and I do have some other stuff.
Yeah, you've got a lot of gems.
Yeah, and so I'm hoping to leave that so people can always come and see, and I'm putting it in seal. And last year, I'm gonna put it back on display this year. I have Dr. King, the first magazine that was printed after he was assassinated, and he was assassinated April 8th, 1968, and this came out like April 10th, 1968. So it's old, and it's got all the information they had at the time. So I had it there on display. But history is like anything else. What I'm doing, what you're doing, it comes in layers.
Yes.
You start off, it tastes good. I might have another taste, and then it's divine, because people you don't know hear about it, and everybody got something to offer.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good way to look at it.
People come and bring me items that like Dr. Porter, would you be interested in this? What is it? Said, my grandma, my mother bought this before I was born, and it looked like it's history. Just the other day, a guy brought me 3 military medals. He didn't know what they were. How they were from World War I. He brought them in. He said, "Would you be interested?" I said, "Oh yeah, those are medals." And so we don't know. Couple, we don't even know what. But they back then, they didn't give you fake medals. They gave you with copper. They gave you some were gold, but you didn't get many gold. Most of them were like bronze. That's the word. I mean, the real deal.
Yeah.
And they, so that's it. Just keep adding up.
Yeah.
But anyway, it get overwhelming sometimes. I have to take a break.
I'm sure.
But let me tell you 2 other things, then I'm gonna have to call it.
Yeah.
I open up Akubalan History Museum in Arkansas, at Arkansas Baptist College, where I graduated from. At 2016 and 2017, I took a traveling exhibit to the college and put it on display for a week, and then I brought it back. First one was 3 days, and the next one, and then they called me on 2018, if I would bring it back for the summer. I told them no. What I would be willing to do if I brought something, I would be willing to leave it, but you all have to guarantee. So we got a long list, memorandum of understanding, and so the alumni that I'm a part of, I'm a national alumni, a member, came up with a plan, and the college bought it. So they gave us a building, and we decorated it.
That's so
now,
great.
I took a lot of originals there.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I have everything else basically a copy. But since it's open, people are bringing all kinds of items to the museum.
I'm sure it just kind of opened up
Yes. And
so which college is that, or university?
Arkansas Baptist College.
Okay.
It was built in 1884. That museum is going strong, even though in my history of the college is that new administrators come along, they change stuff.
Right.
But in the part of the infrastructure of the college now, it's a part of it, and the higher ed higher education, who governed the college, has put it into the college structure that it's a part of the learning institution of the college, so they can't get rid of it.
Yeah, you got to put in stone.
Yeah,
So.
and it happened. I didn't go reach out for that. It happened by itself. Really, it happened by itself. The day we were getting ready to dedicate it, the people from higher ed, and they're actually from Chicago, the accreditation commission.
Yeah,
they came on campus that day for some review. They knew it was coming and all that, but I didn't, And when the president told them that this was going on, they included it in their report.
Okay.
And they put like a thumb of approval on it. This is a learning institution, and our method, our goal, our mission was to educate students, staff, faculty, and the community in the history of Black folk.
Well, Dr. Porter, this has been such a privilege. Thank you so much. I encourage everyone to go to the Akubalan History Center in Kankakee. You do have a Facebook page too, and I know you kind of encourage people to make appointments because sometimes you're not always there.
Yes.
So, if you happen to stop by the center when it's supposed to be open and it's not open,
come back
just come back another time or give give Dr. Porter a call and he'll be happy to show you around. So
thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That concludes this episode of Kankakee Podcast. I'm Jake LaMore. Thank you so much for listening. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Kankakee Podcast. Shout out to Teague Dreenan for supporting the show each month through Patreon. If you want your name announced on a future episode, you can sign up at patreon.com/Kankakee Podcast. Special thanks to our sponsors, Chicago Dough Company, Noble Dairy Queen Stores, Frank's Appliance Center and Sleep Source, King Music, Little Me Studio, D. Westfall Jewelers, and Edward Jones Financial Advisor Adam Elroy. Kankakee Podcast is produced by the fine team at Pathfinder, a full-service marketing agency in downtown Kankakee. You can learn more at yourpathfinder.io. Our theme song is by Lupe Carroll.
This river carries on.